This is Michael David Cobb Bowen for Cobb Visions. It's been a while since I've cut a video. Things are changing. We are into a new era, an era of mystery and danger. Unfortunately, not much excitement, more of depression. I'm fortunate enough to have gone through a couple of these before. I remember back in 1990 when aerospace dried up in California. I basically had to move to New York and work with consumer products companies who were actually making money. And then in the dot-com bust, I was working in Silicon Valley, and I remember how bad that was. This is supposed to be worse than both. So, a couple ideas. The first is with the stimulus. As a conservative, I understand and recognize that the Republicans have kind of overplayed the hand of tax abatement. It's been kind of the one thing that they've been saying forever, going back to Reagan in the 70s, and Howard Jarvis back in those days. And of course, I can remember how I would make a big deal out of that because, in fact, my parents worked for the county. They worked for government. And so one of the reasons I was vociferously against the tax abatement is because it slowed down my own parents' career. And I think about it now, kind of chuckling, and I recognize the irony that I am now one of those people who are against that. And I don't even like the idea that people in government can have a permanent job, no matter what happens. But anyway, yeah, that tax abatement horn has been blown a lot of times. But in terms of stimulus, I have never been more an advocate of tax relief. This is a huge opportunity, and it is going to be really the most equitable way to pass stimulus on to all Americans is to cut the payroll tax. And the government really has a choice to either spend or give tax breaks when they're going to take the burden of a new $1 trillion worth of spending. It can be through an absence of revenue just as much as an addition of cost. Now, you have to understand, to the extent that this doesn't happen, even though it is the most equitable thing, because it'll get to everybody equally very quickly, is that it is in no politician's interest not to have control of a program that they're going to spend money for. So notice that this is about control. My second point is about the matter of control, which is regard to the executive branch's belief that there are aspects of this economy that they can control. And I think that is it's not a fantasy, but it's often wishful thinking. And there are going to be a lot of unintended consequences for people who try to take control of markets and take control of businesses and establish industrial policy and try to make things right. Sometimes you just have to stand back, let things happen, and let a million people sort things out on their own, instead of coming up with one grand master plan that 500,000 people are going to try to gain, the other half don't understand, and there's always hard trade-offs in the middle. So if I were Obama, my attitude would be, yeah, there's some of this that I can do, but I want to keep it very clear, very brief, very to the point, and get right on it very quickly. But if he thinks he's going to have a lot of at-bats with trillions of dollars of American taxpayers' money, he is mistaken. Because the air of revolt, of tax revolt, of political comeuppance is in the air. And Republicans may seem confused, but on these basic economic issues, we are not confused. And the things will come out very clearly And a lot of it will be reactionary, and a lot of it will be gut reactions. And that's how a lot of people are going to act these days, especially when they're up against the wall economically. So, again, that's the thing. The third thing is about attitude, which is how do you take care of yourself, and how do you take care of your family in this era of uncertainty? And one of the things that I've been doing since August is following economists, and I've learned a lot of economists. I like Zingales. I like I don't like Robini, but you got to listen to him. I like David Goldman at Asia Times. He's kind of my favorite economist now. Obviously, I listen to Mankiw, and I listen to Dresner, and a lot of folks. And I'm finding there's one place you ought to listen. If you listen to nothing else, if you do nothing else in terms of the economy, then listen to Tom Keene on Bloomberg. There's a Bloomberg podcast. It's called Bloomberg Surveillance, and Bloomberg on the economy. Tom Keene and I forget his sidekick's name, but they're both excellent. And they are putting top dogs in the financial industry, and economists, some political, most in the industry, and a great number of academics as well. It'll be over your head for the first couple weeks, and then you'll start catching on. And it is smart news. It's very informed, and sometimes it's very depressing. So I think to balance off Bloomberg, you should also listen to The Onion, because you're going to need a lot of humor to get through this. Because a lot of times you're just going to shake your head and throw your hands in the air and say, I don't understand why America is coming apart. But we all have to keep our heads up and keep our spirits high, and remember who we are, because that's what's going to get us through. This is Michael David Cobb Bowen for Cobb Vision. Peace.